part of it is because it's like natural vanilla flavouring, or there is a little bit of sweetener in it, I think, but it's just not, you can't taste it, and so you haven't got that. Some of them are so sweet and horrible, like no wonder your stomach doesn't like it. So this works really well. So I'm really happy I found this way because it doesn't have any after effects on me, whereas all the other bulk ones and the gold standard one were just causing me too much aggravation. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're good, mate. I think they're right.
Sorry about that one, folks. We had some technical difficulties just starting things off then, but we should be live and audible. Welcome. Another episode of the Golden Goal Fantasy Football Podcast, chatting about Sky FF, and I'm pleased to say, as usual, I'm joined by Sam. How are you getting on, mate? You must be very happy after the weekend's football results.
Yeah, mate. Oh, yeah. On the contrary, you're probably not so happy. Yes, mate. I was buzzing. That's as happy as I've been as a Liverpool fan in quite a while. So, yeah. I mean, it wasn't so favourable for me in Sky, if I'm honest. But I think a lot of people would have been in that boat looking at my ranks as they didn't really change too much, despite having no Mo Salah in Sky anyway. But yeah, fantasy football aside, it was great to get back on sort of track and bit of a freak result, which I'm sure you don't really want to talk about. So I'll move it on.
I don't mind, to be honest. I actually sat there and just watched the whole thing unrevolve. I don't even know the word. I can't even get my words out.
Unfold.
Unfold. That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
Because it was just such a shocker. Like, it was only 45 minutes that really Man United just completely fell apart, and they conceded 6 goals. And Liverpool, you guys were so clinical with your chances as well. I know
Yeah, we were.
the scoreline was 7 goals, but really you had, in that second half, you had 6 chances and you scored all of them. I don't think De Gea made a single save. So yeah, I think, yeah, full credit to Liverpool. They were really good, and that was the Liverpool that I think we remember from a couple of seasons ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, you can't argue with that on a kind of an intensity perspective. Fabinho looked better, Henderson looked better, Verge looked better. I mean, Kanate makes a big difference, doesn't he, to the
Yeah, he
Liverpool
does.
team?
He does.
Robbo turns up and he's always a shithouse against Everton and United. I'd love him to just have that every single game week. Nunes obviously still carrying a bit of a knock in the shoulder, which I think was evident. I don't think he was at his best, but he did enough to get a couple of goals and obviously.
Mate, he's still absolutely devastating, and I think he's finally found the goal now. So I think you can safely say he'll be amongst the goals pretty much every week now. He just needed one to get the confidence going, and I think he got that, didn't he? Well, I think it came against Madrid.
He's got a real, his returns and goals and assists have actually been excellent this season, even when people were calling him Punes and all that sort of stuff. The signs were all there. Like, it was positionally, he was getting himself in the right positions. He was creating the chances. He was getting the chances. He just wasn't finishing the chances. Now he's starting, like you said, now he's starting to find where the back of the net is. He's only going to get better. And I think, yeah, Gakpo filled me with a little bit of kind of confidence for what can come in the future. He showed some really nice glimpses. It was obviously a lovely finish. Yeah, I think from a Sky perspective, there will be people looking at the Liverpool assets once more, although there's quite a few tricky fixtures coming up. But I think Salah's probably a no-brainer for most people moving forward.
What do you make of the defence at the moment, mate? I know I don't know, this is my Man United fan opinion, so you can shoot me down if you don't agree, but defensively, they've obviously kept a number of consecutive clean sheets in the Prem now.
5, isn't? Is it 5?
But but I don't feel they've actually been that good. Like, I feel like Man United could have scored 2 or 3 goals in that first half quite easily, and I don't know how they've gotten away with it, to be honest. Is that sort of your feeling as well?
Yeah, we've definitely improved. You can't
Yeah, no,
argue that we
no
haven't.
doubt. Yeah,
But I think if you can compare it to the Liverpool defence of the last couple of years, we're nowhere near back to that level. And I think there's a number of reasons for that. So yeah, you're absolutely right. I don't think they're a team you would rely on at the moment for lots of clean sheets, but there's been five back to back. I think if you can keep Canate fit and a couple of those key
exactly.
members in midfield, then the good judge, Tom, will be off the back of these next five games. I
Yeah,
think with where we stand with Liverpool. For me, being a fan aside, I think from a fantasy perspective, especially in Sky, I mean, fan team are already three deep in there already. But if I was looking at Liverpool assets, maybe except Salah, I'd just like to see a bit more consistency in terms of performances. I mean, were awful against us. Palace could have easily had a couple of goals. You could have had a couple of goals in that first half. So yeah, it's on a defensive perspective, it's just looking for a little bit more consistency in terms of good Liverpool performances. That's where I stand with us currently.
fair enough. And yeah, I guess it's worth saying a bit on Man United. I just hope they can they can pull their finger out and recover from that one. Like I was saying, I think the scoreline, it was the scoreline. I can't argue with it. Like I said, I think you took pretty much all of your chances, and it was just really, 45 minutes where we just completely fell apart. So I'm hoping that's not a curse on Man United's season, and they can still kick on and be as good as they were before that game, because I think the first half was pretty even, and then we just, after the first couple of goals you scored in the second half, it just lost their heads.
Yeah, I wonder what sort of psychological impact that game's had on the United players, and it will be a real sign of their resilience whether they bounce back against who have you got? Have you got Leeds? Is it or something
Southampton.
like that the weekend? Is it Southampton? Is it? Yeah. So whether you can bounce back against South, I mean, you should do, shouldn't you?
I hope so. I think there are definitely a select few players in that United squad that when things don't go their way, they completely fall apart. And Bruno Fernandes, I think, is one of those players. I think he needs to sort that out. He just needs to sort his head out. He gets too down when things don't go his way. And he's the club. Well, he's not the club captain. That's Maguire, but he was the captain on the pitch, and he didn't really set a great example. I don't think in that second half at all.
Didn't. Got a few funky behaviours going on, and when Bajcetic dispossessed him, the sulk that he gave instead of chasing the ball back down that right hand side, you'd just be fuming as a United fan and player seeing that behaviour. And then there's a bit of petulance going on as well. He's not come out with in good light after this again, has he? And he's a fabulous player on the ball when things are going well. So yeah, that's an issue. But I'm sure your gaffer will be looking at that. I mean, if we can spot it as fans, then I'm sure it's been picked up and noted within United. So I expect you to bounce back, Tom.
I hope so.
Definitely.
First screen I got for this pod, mate, was just a look at the game week. What are we on? Game week 32 in Sky for the fixtures for that day, and also we might get a pod in time for this, but I thought it's worth just pointing out the Friday single game day we got next week as well. So just going through the fixtures. Already chatted about Liverpool. They've got Bournemouth away as the early kickoff on Saturday. Given, looking at those fixtures, would you consider, I'll go through the rest of them first. We got Tottenham Forest, Leicester Chelsea, Leeds Brighton, Everton Brentford, and Palace with Man City at home. Based on that performance we've just seen off Liverpool, do you think Mo Salah is a genuine captaincy shout for Saturday, or would you still just stick it on Haaland?
I think Salah will be really popular for owners. Not everyone likes the 12:30 kickoff, and Bournemouth have been good. I mean, they gave Arsenal such a good game. But even if Bournemouth do play well, you'd expect Liverpool to get a goal or a couple of goals.
Absolutely.
And Salah on the form he's on, he's going to be involved, Tom, whether it's an assist or a goal. So, and we get to see the lineups. City are playing. Oh, they're not playing this week, are they? They're Champions League next week, aren't they? So I mean, you expect with that in mind, you'd expect Haaland to start. He's still a really, really good opportunity. Really good opportunity. He's still a really good option. What are you going to do there? Do you think?
I think I've got Salah, and to be honest, I think I'm just happy to own him. I think Palace they've not been very good this season, in my opinion. I don't know if that's a harsh statement to make, but I think I see goals in that for Man City. I really do. And based on how they've been playing, well, they blew away. You see the scarf I got from the game in the background. They blew away Bristol City in the week last week. That gave them full confidence for the weekend, where they played really well against Newcastle, and I think they'll carry that on into the Crystal Palace. I think they're in there like run into the end of the season sort of mentality now in Man City. I don't know if they'll win the league. I'm not going to make any statements like that, but I just feel like they're in the run-in sort of mentality that we've seen from them. So I do think they can put 3 or 4 past Palace. But then again, I also think Liverpool could do the same against Bournemouth. So yeah, I guess it's the early kick-off factor. I'll probably go Haaland, but I think it's close.
Yeah, no one in Sky likes the early kickoff, do they? I've been stung by it a couple of times as well. So yeah, I think if you just get captain blank, then you've got to wait the rest of the day to see like what the other popular captain or captains do, and it's just not very nice from that perspective. But I think it's really, really close this week. Really close between Salah and
I
Haaland.
don't think I'll be doing it, but I don't mind Tony away at Everton either.
Yeah, I think that's a really
I
good
think you could
fixture.
quite easily score in that game, to be honest.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean Kane at home to Forest. I mean, it's a goal and assist. No, sorry, goal and shots bonus for Kane. I know he's playing tonight, but that's another good option if people are Salah or Haalandless or don't want to captain either of them. I think Kane's a perfectly viable shout. He's ticked along quite nicely this season as well.
So yeah, Saturday feels like, although in my opinion, I don't know if you share this, I think Haaland, just with his popularity in the game, is probably going to be the most captained. But I do think there are plenty of alternatives if you want to go different. But I don't know, for me, I feel like it's also a day that Haaland could score 2 or 3 goals, like quite easily against Palace. I think he could just nick a hat-trick, and then if you don't go for him, he ruins you like he's done for me in the past. It's probably, you remember his whole, I can't remember who it was against earlier. It was the Man United
Forest.
game, actually. And I hedged towards my own team. And to be honest, I think it was a pretty sensible decision, thinking that Man United would probably give them quite a good game. And then he just came away with a hat-trick, and I think he got multiple assists as well. And that's the reason I'm not doing so well in Sky now, because I didn't have him captain on that day. So I'm not sure I can miss out on that again.
It makes him actually, by Salah coming back to form, and if he consistently does come back to form, it just makes the game a little bit less template and a
Oh,
bit more
definitely.
fun when Salah and Haaland play on the same day, because Salah's just as capable of major hauls and been a midfielder with that extra point as well. I think that definitely starts to make it like really kind of a tricky decision. Because as we know, Salah's been top point scorer on Sky or FPL and or whatever for like 3 or 4 years running, isn't he? For a reason. So I hope for the sake of the game that Salah continues to produce, and we have that sort of conundrum that we're going to get on Saturday, where it's Salah versus
Yeah,
Haaland.
absolutely, absolutely.
But you are so right with Haaland. He can have 3 goals and not play that well. That's the state of Haaland in that City team, um, which is a worry. And I missed him, Tom. I think the one captaincy I missed him for was the Nottingham Forest first half hat trick earlier in the season. I did. There was a little potential with a little switcheroo with Kane.
Right.
I think Kane scored on the game before or whatever, but then yeah, there was a little opportunity there and didn't bring Harden back in, and should have, and just got completely
Oh,
punished with
yeah.
a 20-pointer or whatever it was. Um, so yeah, that still haunts me a little bit. So very, very close. But I think because I don't have Salah at the moment, I will hedge on Haaland.
Hello, Glenn and Brownie in the chat. Don't want to forget about you guys. Thanks for tuning in, lads. And yeah, feel free to chime in with any questions or opinions on what we're talking about. So looking at the Sunday fixtures, we've got West Ham at home to Aston Villa, Man United at home to Southampton, Arsenal away at Fulham, and Newcastle at home to Wolves. Another game, another day where the captaincy could be quite split on this one. Like, Rashford's probably going to be the most popular. You could have Saka or an Arsenal defender maybe against Fulham, and then a Newcastle defender could well be a sensible option against Wolves, because you'd like to think Newcastle keep a clean sheet in that one. So lots of options again on Sunday, I think.
Yeah, apologies to the guys earlier. I meant to say I couldn't access the live screen to see who was in there
That's right.
or whatever. I wasn't ignoring you guys. I think good options here on this day are Ollie Watkins for Villa. West Ham just got pumped, didn't they, the
They did.
weekend? They're in real danger. I think Rashford obviously is a great shout still. He's been on fantastic form. And then yeah, there's a plethora of Arsenal midfielders you could pick there. I think Martinelli's in for a good shout as well with the slight change in system.
Yeah, and I think
And then I
Trossard and Nketiah missed training today as well, so I think that almost guarantees a Martinelli start in minutes for that one. Oh, and obviously we'll see the lineup because they're all at 2, so yeah, I like Martinelli's chance, and I also like his chance of getting 90 minutes in that game, to be honest.
Yeah, I do too, Tom. I've got Martinelli still actually in Sky. I'm being glad I held through that little not rough period, but that little period where people thought he's going to be rested and whatnot. And then I don't really fancy anyone from Newcastle Wolves, if I'm honest, at the moment. Newcastle just a little dip of form, which is probably natural for that squad and where they're currently at. So as it stands, I'm going to be taught. I think I'll probably go Rashford if I see him start. But honourable mentions to some of those Arsenal midfielders.
Yeah, can't disagree with you. I think I'll be doing the same, mate. And then looking at the Wednesday fixture, we've got the ever-famous Sky single game day that's not a single game day this time round. Brighton, Crystal Palace, and then Southampton at home to Brentford. How did you get on, by the way, with your Brentford captaincy on the Monday? Did you get the right side of the coin, or?
No, I went Raya.
Oh, mate, what can you do?
I had Raya and Tony, like I think a lot of people did. And actually just went between the two. It was like Tony Ray, and just went with Ray. It was all good, mate, it is what it is.
I don't remember a captaincy decision where it's been quite as 50-50 as that one. It was right down the line. Like you could not make an argument to me to tell me that one player was better than the other there that I'd agree with. I think there was cases for both of them and it was a complete 50-50.
Where did you end up?
I put it on Tony. I put their two names into a random name selector on Google, and it came out with Tony, so I went for Tony.
You got the right call. I mean, I don't think it was a massive points difference.
9 points, I think it means if you had both, and you got the wrong captain. So yeah.
So I think on that day I'll actually go with Brett. I'll go with Tony, but I think that's not because of last week. I think I will go with Tony on the Wednesday there.
Yeah, I think that's a Tony captain day, isn't it? You'd fancy a goal against Southampton, I reckon.
Yeah, I think it's a shame with the Brighton players. I always say this about like March and stuff. It's not a defender because he would just spice up Sky so much, wouldn't he, Solly March? Because I know in some other formats people are thinking about Solly March as the captain.
Well, he's going to be my captain in fan team. Absolutely, yeah.
With the double game week with Leeds and Palace, because he's obviously, for people that don't know, he's a defender. Midfielder playing as a defender, so the ceiling is really high, and they always think as a result of that, sometimes these really good Brighton assets get missed a little bit because of where they're positionally set on Sky.
And then on the Friday we've got Forest at home to Newcastle. I think it's probably worth just looking at the way those games go. If you've got excess Man City players, just because they have a few less fixtures than, say, Newcastle, you could well hop off one of your Man City players for a Newcastle one on the Sunday and then to captain them on the Friday. So Forest, Newcastle. On that day, I think it's probably worth having someone just for the fixture gains, etc., similar to what we've had to do with Brentford players. Who would you say at the moment you're liking from, well, you could captain someone from Forest, of course, maybe Brennan Johnson, but I think Newcastle's probably the stronger team to select from.
I think he's a really good shout, Brennan Johnson. I don't have anyone from Newcastle or Forest, and I'll probably skip it.
Okay.
Do I? Let's have a quick look. I have to remind myself if I do or don't. No, I don't have any. No Newcastle, no Forest. So I think I was going to bring. I'll have to have a little look at the team, but if I was going to bring anyone back in, I think by looking at what I've got, I could do. I could bring Trippier back into a back three, and then captain Trippier on that one, which I don't think would be a bad shout. But if I had Brennan Johnson, I'd be sticking the armband on him. I think they could score against Newcastle that night. I
was thinking Trippier to... Yeah, I completely agree on the goal chances, to be honest. I was thinking of Rodri to maybe... Well, it depends how much bonus he's been getting. I'll need to have a look at it in a second. Maybe Rodri to someone like Bruno Guimaraes or just Trippier. Keep it simple, go Trippier. Something like that. Because you immediately get a 3 for 0 if you count the captaincy. And I imagine because Man City blank in the next game week, a Newcastle player, it probably turns into a 4 for 0. So... Probably makes sense to go from Man City to Newcastle. Just who you pick for Newcastle is up to you. But then I'm not ruling out a captaincy from Forest, like you say. Brennan Johnson's been in great form, so could quite easily score.
That's why I've done Rodri. I've only got Haaland as my only City player at the moment, so I did Rodri to Tony.
Nice move, mate. Yeah.
At the weekend for that reason. I'm with Sky. It's like I'm so far behind. It's almost like it's sapped the life out of me a little bit with it.
No, completely understand. Yeah,
I'm just not quite as on the ball potentially as I normally would be, like as I am with Fan Team. Just because I had such a terrible start. Because I should have had Salah in for that Sunday and thought ahead on that sort of stuff, but when I just know the season's over, so I'm having a little bit of fun with it, as you've realised over the last few weeks, and I've still got plenty of transfers in hand to get that top 1,000 finish. But I think by looking at my team, Trippier back in is probably a good shout.
Cool. Should we have a look at what we got up next?
Yeah,
it was just a view of the Draft Hound clean sheet odds. Just so you can see, I won't go through them all, but you got top teams there. So Man City leading the way, Tottenham, United, Newcastle really high against Wolves. You can't see their clean sheet odds, unfortunately, for Forest because it's in the next FPL game week. This is based on FPL stats. Liverpool, Arsenal all above 40%. Brighton looking really likely, certainly 48% against Palace. So like if you had Lewis Dunk on the day that there's the Brighton and Brentford games, maybe he's a captaincy shout too. And you can see the rest of the teams there.
I've got Dunk. He got me a 10-pointer last game week. He's a solid player, Lewis Dunk.
He is. That's why I put his little screenshot in there because I thought it'd be relevant.
Nice.
But yeah, absolutely.
Oh yeah, there he is. Yeah.
No, I think he's a great option, and he's just like, you do not have to. Well, I think I've had Lewis Dunk once, and then he either got benched or injured immediately. But you don't really have to worry about him not playing. Like he is probably the most nailed player in that team.
What was there a game last year or something where he got a goal, passing bonus, and then got red carded or something like that?
I think I've had him for that. Yeah.
I guess so did I. That goes down in the Sky folklore, doesn't it? It goes down with the Soyuncu who won a few seasons back, where he got red carded or whatever, missed the last 3 games, and we'd all run out of transfers and a known goal or so. I can't remember. Really rubbish, really rubbish Sky moment. But yeah, he's a good asset.
Oh, this is a bit small to read on my screen. Hopefully the viewers can see this one. And yeah, please let me know if the screenshot I've sent you, Sam, you can't read. But it was just to look at the fixtures that we've got coming up to see if there are any potential gains to be made. I think the big one, I'm going to have to lean right in because it's so small on my screen. I think the big one that I spotted was the Newcastle over Man City. That's basically a 4-0 if you count the captaincy. Is it? No, 4-1. Sorry, if you count the captaincy, and the Man City game that is hit there as the Liverpool one. So, I think given that it's Liverpool, I think a very sensible transfer would be a Man City defender to a Newcastle defender. Considering they've got Liverpool, I'd probably back Liverpool to score against Man City in the form that they're in.
Yeah, I do too. Sorry, Tom. I was looking at the little game with Chelsea on Man City as well.
Yeah.
I think that's a 5 for 2. Am I right there? Chelsea 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Looks very
Man
tasty,
City,
yeah.
2. Or 6 for 3, depending which way you look at it.
And then, well, you've already moved on to a Brentford player, but there's gains to be made with Brentford assets on Man City as well.
You could come off any Man City asset versus Liverpool, and then you actually get 6 for. If you go on to Chelsea and some more others, you'd get Chelsea at Leicester, Everton, Villa, Liverpool, Wolves, and Brighton, and then you just get Man City at Palace, and then if you moved off, and then come back on at Southampton 5-6 games later versus Chelsea, it's not a bad little.
Yeah, it's lovely, isn't it?
There's definitely a few Chelsea assets worth looking at now. I think they've turned a little bit of a corner, and like you said, there's a bit of Brentford in there, a bit of Brighton in there.
And speaking of those gains, mate, we had a couple of questions. Well, one question from Glenn Murray. He said, what are the maths on Haaland to Watkins to be worth 2 transfers? So just looking at the fixtures. So Man City v Villa is, just find Villa. So it's a 3-4-1, 4-for-1, 5-for-1 by the looks of it. Yeah, 5 Villa fixtures to 1 Man City fixture, and the Man City fixture is
Wow.
Liverpool.
I think what I'd suggest people to do on this, because me and you were looking from screenshots, is just go into this,
Yeah,
select Man City, and then select the teams and just have a look like what you could do. Because we mentioned Watkins earlier, he's just on a great run of form.
he is.
I'd be well up for that.
And just have a prediction now of what points he's got. Just think off the top of your head, mate. No pressure to think too deeply. So Watkins has got a fixture run of those 5 being West Ham, Bournemouth, Chelsea, Leicester, Forest. Those are the 5. And then Haaland's got Liverpool. What do you think the potential points difference is there? Like, I could quite easily see Watkins probably getting 30 points in that 5 run of 5.
I could see him getting shots bonus in a couple of games. Maybe no goal, and then a couple of goals in there as well with bonus. So, yeah, onward 20 to 30 points. I think that's... What do we say now the value of a transfer is?
It's
15?
less than 10, I think. Something like that.
There you go, then. There you go. That's a no-brainer. But what I would say is you want to look at that against what other options you've got. Is there a Chelsea option there that you might feel might actually push that points comparison? Or someone else from another side already. Like, did we say Brentford have got 7 for 2 or something with a captaincy, or have had 7 for 2, and there's plenty of options there. It's just thinking who's gonna do the best. Watkins is in great form. I'd be well keen for that.
The thing I would say just on selling Haaland and not having him for the Liverpool game, how many goals do you think Haaland could get against that Liverpool defence?
Nah, I don't. Oh, I don't want to curse it. Don't make me say it, but Liverpool just to play differently and much better against Man City the last couple of times with him. I don't want to say that because I'm just about to curse the hell out of it and he'll have a hat trick or something. But he hasn't had anything against Liverpool yet, has he? Didn't earlier in the season. He barely got a sniff, but it doesn't mean that's not gonna happen again, Tom. But I'm not even going to say it. I'm not even going to say it. I'm just going to leave it there. Haaland could get points against anyone. That's where I'm going to leave it. Because I know if I say anything now, then it's going to be Haaland 2 goals and freaking assist and shots bonus and whatever else against us. So I'm leaving it there. But yeah, you always run the risk, Tom, with Haaland, don't you?
I think it's one worth taking, though, especially like if we're talking like Ollie Watkins is the greatest player of all time. He's obviously not, but the 5 fixtures to 1 is impossible to ignore, and he is in good form. And I think the Villa system works well for him. And now they've got rid of Danny Ings as well. There's not much competition for his spot. So yeah, I do like him.
I love it how Watkins has come up and you said that, because did you see the comment on James? And,
I was very conscious of that. Yeah.
Yeah, someone said you made out that he's the next coming of Messi, and James obviously replied with a laughing face. But I can understand where that come from, because with this fixtures, with the fixtures there and the form he's in, he could come up with a sort of Messi-like return, couldn't he? Obviously tongue in cheek.
I think just thinking aloud, what I might do is I might keep hold of Haaland just with that Liverpool game in mind, and he could be my sneaky differential as a captain on that day. Haaland being a differential sounds all kinds of weird. Or maybe I'd come up with a plan that involves taking him out and bringing him back in, or what have you. Maybe I'd do something with Trippier. But I definitely want to have Ollie Watkins for that period. I think that gain, and the fixture volume for Villa is just too high to ignore.
Yeah, for sure, mate. Yeah, that FF stuff chart is definitely worth jumping in and having a little 5 minutes, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. I haven't given any credit to Frank. Full credit to Frank FF stuff. This table here is completely lifted from his website. I do apologise, I didn't give credit earlier, but I think most people watching this will know about FF stuff. But if you don't, ffstuff.co.uk, great resource for anything Sky Fantasy Football related, and most of the content we're showing on this stream comes from him. So I'll make sure to put a link in the description when this video goes out as well. What did we have next? I just thought it'd be worth... Oh, my light's just fallen off. Brilliant. I thought it'd be worth bringing attention to the most transferred in players of the weekend, just to see quite how many people have gone for the likes of Tony and Raya, etc. So this is since the Friday before the weekend, and this is just top 1K transfers. And yeah, it looks like 704 people brought in Ivan Toney, 485 brought in David Raya, looks like 279 people, because Rashford was near 100% ownership, so it looks like 279 sold him and then I brought him back in, and then the rest are quite low numbers. But yeah, just interested to see the sheer volume of Tony and Raya transfers.
Yeah, it makes sense. They're both. I would say every week on this stream, Brentford have been really good, and they're their two best Sky assets. Actually, I brought all three of them in because I had Rashford out for a Neves 3 for 0 or whatever it was. That didn't really pay off, if I'm honest, but that's fine. Took the risk, so I just got Rashford back in, and obviously Raya for Pope. Um, I can't remember who had in goal. Raya in, and then Tony for Rodri or whatever it was. So yeah, so I brought those three in, and clearly a lot of others did as well.
And I've got a question for you, because I think the next, if I can predict what the next screen is, over the last, I think 4 or 5 game weeks, who do you think the top scoring player in Sky Fantasy Football is?
Over the last what?
I can't remember if it's 4 or 5 game weeks.
I think Zinchenko's done pretty well from Arsenal. I would imagine, based off our conversation earlier with the Liverpool clean sheets, that your Van Dijk, your Trents, and most probably Alisson will be up there because he's nine points for a clean sheet plus saves bonus. So probably Alisson, Zinchenko, Van Dijk, Trent, Salah in there definitely.
You've nailed it, mate.
Like
yeah. Last 5 game weeks, top scoring player is Alisson with 51 points, followed by Zinchenko, Salah, and Trent, all on 49, 47. 45 points for Virgil and Marcus Rashford, Saka, Rodri, Martinelli. Watkins is up there, to be fair, as the GOAT himself is up there. You can see the rest of the players there, but you nailed it, mate.
Yeah, well, I think I had a bit of kind of a clue there when we talk about Liverpool 5 clean sheets in a row, and of course, if you're picking up passing bonus, saves bonus, a few assists here and there in there as well, like that, those points are going to rack up to 50.
Absolutely.
Nearly 50 points. So, and Zinchenko's been talk of the town, so I knew he was in and around there as well.
Yeah, he's been brilliant for my team anyway, and yeah. I think of all the Arsenal defenders, some of them don't necessarily get passing bonus. It seems that Saliba and Zinchenko are the two that do. Gabriel not so much, and Ben White not so much. So yeah, very happy with Zinchenko.
He uses Zinchenko very much like Cancelo was used at City, doesn't he? He cropped up for the assist over on the right hand side in the middle of the park for the Saka goal, didn't he? It's like a right central midfielder.
Yeah, it's a very Pep and Arteta way, and I think imagine other managers do it as well, of creating just numerical advantages basically. So yeah, absolutely.
I wish I was, when I'm playing on a Saturday, that I was entrusted
drifted into midfield.
Entrusted to be on the right hand side of a midfield to create a chance. Don't usually find myself there, Tom, not unless I'm out of position. So I think he's a really good Sky asset.
Yeah, I'd just be left back in the changing room, mate. So don't worry.
Yeah, that's why. I should be as well. To be fair.
What did we have next? Just a quick update of the Golden Goal Mini League. So yeah, Glenn Murray was asking what is the prize for the Golden Goal League, and yeah, absolutely, it's a packet of biscuits of your choice and a Golden Goal branded mug. So yeah, we've not defined what the biscuits are. It's up to the winner to decide that one.
If Glenn wins it, I wonder what he'll choose. He's Scotland, isn't he? So
he's fourth. He's blooming fourth. So yeah, he's quite close. 54 points in it.
I wonder if there's a different sort of choice there because he's up in Scotland.
I hope we can get it to him anyway. I hope I'm not geographically restricted.
Glenn, win it so we can find out what your biscuit choice is.
I'll be interested to know if you're still in the chat, Glenn, what you're thinking of. But yeah,
I don't think he's let himself dream that far yet, Tom. I mean, come on, you can't let your head get too far into the clouds.
That's true. It is the greatest prize in all of fantasy football, to be fair.
But what have we got? We've got David Baxter in first, Dean Hicks in second. Dean's been involved in many leagues with Dean over the years. Martin in third, with a familiar name. Glenn in fourth. Mr. Ian Parran himself in fifth. He's starting to do really, really well. I've seen Ian's name floating about. Martin Felton in sixth. Tim Barry, another popular name within the Sky FF community, in 7th. And then Shane, as we say, won the World Cup game, having an absolute belter in the Premier League one as well in 8th. And he's also in 9th as well, Tom. So he's double bubble. So clearly both teams very, very similar. And then Sam Cull in 10th. That's a very, very competitive top 10, Tom.
Yeah, I need to learn from Shane next season, I think, and really go identical with my two teams. Go safe and identical to start the season with my two teams, and then very, very late on when things get really interesting. I think Shane's played like you're saying, he's played a blinder.
I'd be interested to know, and people, if they watch this back or are live now, just put it into the chat, although I can't see the chat, but you can, Tom. There's anyone who's actually benefited from having a couple of different teams? Because often you kind of pick your ideal team and then you go with probably a slightly differential team, and you know within your heart that maybe it's not.
I just do it for I go different for the sake of it, and I don't think that's a healthy way of playing it. I think you're absolutely right.
And more often than not, the team that's kind of the one that you believe is the better team often is the better team, and you think, we'll just create two like that, maybe with just one player difference or something, and just kind of have them look like Shane's got, neck and neck, and then you can differentiate when you come into the kind of the home straight of the season, and you're looking to win mini leagues, and in Shane's case, win the whole thing.
I think Paul McNulty's done the same as well. I'm pretty sure he's got two teams right up there as well. So it's definitely a tactic that works. So I think we'll see a lot more managers do that next season.
Yeah.
Question from Glenn Murray is, do you think that Jaffa cakes are a biscuit?
No.
No, I don't think
they're
so.
Not, are they?
They're called a cake. They're soft. They're a bit soft as well, aren't they? They're not crunchy. A biscuit's got to be proper crunchy, hasn't it, in my opinion?
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. Jaffa cakes are nice.
Oh, yeah.
If Glenn wins and requests them, we're going to have to ask him to redo the request.
Yeah. Yeah, no Jaffa cakes, I'm afraid, Glenn. He's also said Kit Kat or caramel wafer, so they're perfectly acceptable. Although Kit Kat...
Thinking, is that a bit? Would you class that as a biscuit?
I was thinking that. I don't know. I think Kit Kat's a chocolate bar, isn't it? It's like a penguin.
Yeah.
A penguin's a chocolate bar too.
Yeah, but then those I can't remember what they're called. Those biscuits with the chocolate on top of them that are small. I can't remember. They've got a German name or something. They're really nice. I can't remember what they're called, but they're very similar. So, what's the difference? Just they come in a box of small ones, like penguin.
I think if it comes in a wrapper, you can't have a biscuit that comes in a wrapper, can you?
No, but what's that? Again, I can't remember what it's called. The Cadbury's wafer thing. Is that a biscuit? The two little biscuits in the pack. The two biscuits in the pack. Mate, you need to get your biscuit and chocolate bar knowledge up. I can't remember what they're called, but there's like a purple and yellow pack by Cadbury's, and they've got this little shortbread biscuits in them.
I'll get a lecture here. I'm ready to join your 3-hour-long lecture next week on the UK's biscuit selection.
So are they a biscuit? I don't know.
I mean, what's your definition of a biscuit? This is proper philosophical debate at 8:40 after a busy day of work. Brownie's just saying his teams are identical right up until the end of the season. Yeah, fair play, mate. I think it's a great way to play. Oh, the snacks. Oh, I love those. They're biscuits. Yeah, definitely biscuits. They're like, I don't know. They're like in between, aren't they?
No, it says it on there, mate. It says 4 biscuits.
Oh, okay. There we go. Fair enough.
If anyone can see that, it says 4 biscuits on there. So, Glenn, you can have them, but
they're bloody good. They aren't they? Those snacks. I want some now. They are excellent.
Yeah, they're nice. Sorry, what did someone say about the team?
Just Brownie saying he does the identical teams thing as well.
I'm going to move into that next year, I think, on Sky.
It's just less effort as well, isn't it? You just got less to think about.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and on fan team, I've been doing that pretty much. Bar the odd player, and they're both very, very similar and good ranks as well. So it's like it kind of makes sense.
That's all learnings, isn't it? I've got. I need to write it. I need to write my learnings from every Sky season onto a bit of paper so I don't forget them. Because I didn't do that last season, and I feel like I'm not making the same mistakes, but I'm making new ones. So it'd be a good thing to just track them all and hopefully have a much better season like next year time. Right.
Yeah, I don't know where I've gone so massively wrong this season again. I'm not too sure.
I genuinely think, mate, there are a number of pretty good managers that are having less than ideal seasons. So maybe not in the Sky as much, but in the likes of FPL, there are definitely some major content creators that are really struggling, for example, that usually don't.
Yeah, I mean that's nice to hear in a strange sense. But I've really, neither of us are having the best Sky season, are we?
No.
But yeah, in fan team, we're both having really good seasons across the board on that one. It's still a fantasy game. You still pick players. It's no different. I know there's some nuances that are different, but it just shows how the swings between the platforms can be really quite large. I think the swings in Sky can be quite big. I think we talked about this before. You can get really punished by sort of one player or two players difference. Say I had me and you had the same 9 players, and then we both had two different 10 and 11. You could almost be 50 points ahead of me just from those two, or vice versa. So I think it's really quite swingy, and if it's going your way, then you can really shoot up the ranks.
And one thing I've definitely noticed this season as well is people will almost be rewarded for just leaving their teams alone. Certainly in fan team, there have been weeks where I've not forgotten, but I've not prioritised it and just not made any transfers because I couldn't really be bothered. And it's paid off. Like every time I've just left my team, it's paid off. The same happened in FPL last week. I did my wild card, and just leaving my team would have been a better option. I could have probably been hit by a bus at the start of the season, right? Had the captaincy on Haaland every week and been in a better position than I am now. And I think the same probably applies to Sky, where just being patient and leaving players in is probably the way to go as well.
I think that was a Fergie learning from a couple of seasons ago. Fergie said on the 3 for 1 podcast, more often than not, the best thing to do is sit on your hands.
Yeah.
And I think loads of people were punished this game week, in particular in numerous formats, from jumping off the Liverpool assets, jumping onto other assets that blanked and missed all the hauls. And like you said, you'd be better off just leaving your team and reaping the rewards. I think it's a really hard lesson to learn from that, though, isn't it? Because I think we've already talked about that on the pod numerous times, and yet we all still
You just get sucked into making the transfers, don't you? It's always happened.
Like Martinelli's a prime example. I left Martinelli in Sky, and then I've had such a lovely little run from Martinelli, and 9 times out of 10 I would have taken him out. But there's no purpose to take him out. He's done fantastic since everyone has taken him out, because these players are proven assets over a period of time. I think what happens with me is I always feel like if I leave them, that they are just going to continually blank. Example, like a Son. Like Son obviously wouldn't be a player this season that you would just leave in. So there are
exceptions, but I feel like with Son, he's been so poor this season. It's a simple one, isn't it?
Yeah, you sort of, if you had him, you just can read from the game and basically get rid of him. Like you said, whereas Martinelli's been excellent. Had a couple of games where he didn't return, but still his numbers were quite good, and then he's come back with a bang again.
I do feel like the same could be said with moving Ollie Watkins to Haaland as well. Not having Haaland for that Liverpool game could bite you, really, just based on the fact that he's a proven asset. But we'll see.
It's just fixture accumulation, isn't it? That's the big one with Watkins and certain other ones. When you've got 5s and 6s games over 1s and 2s, it's a kind of accumulation of starting games and numbers.
So we got a couple of statements, well, not necessarily questions, more statements from Michael Harland. He asks, when City play on the 9th of April, he's thinking of going Ruben Dias early on and thinking that he's going to be a massive differential for the rest of the season, obviously with the risk of the Champions League. Ruben Dias seems to be playing pretty much every game for City at the moment, to be fair. What do you think of Dias as an option? I wouldn't do it right now, considering fixture games of other teams, but I do quite like him. Obviously, he's a rotation risk, but probably, I don't know. My gut feel says he's now the most nailed Man City defender. Don't know what you think.
Pep realised he just needs to go with some solidarity back there?
I think so, yeah.
And in that case, yeah, if Dias is kind of nailed to play, then he's a great asset. I mean, he's been a wonderful Sky asset for many years. Just the Pep roulette that always has us kind of umming and ahhing. But as many people have pointed out with the Man City assets, that even missing the odd game here and there, if they're on a bit of a Man City run, that they'd still outscore their rivals with just 10 pointers very regularly. 10 and 5 pointers. So yeah, I think he will be one to watch from now till the games start again with them, and those kind of fixture gains are out the way. But yeah, I really like that as an option.
Just quick chat from Brownie. He says, in general, he'd feel slightly disappointed if one of his teams fell behind on other points, and yeah, eliminates any sense of negativity. I mean, I agree. I think pretty much every season I've played Sky, I've had a B team, and I've forgotten about it by January. Like, genuinely, it just couldn't care less because it's not done very well. So, yeah, I think it just solidifies the argument of going pretty identical and then changing at the last minute.
Yeah, well, my B team I've not touched in 6 weeks at all because it's just so far behind.
Yeah.
So case in point, that exact thing.
What else have we got? One question from Mitch. I've just lost it now. Michael also made the statement that he was looking at doing Haaland to Watkins. So yeah, I think
Nice.
we've chatted about that. I like it, but I think it's risky not having Haaland. If you can find a way to get Haaland back for that Liverpool game, I'd probably do it. But I would definitely go for Ollie Watkins over that period.
Do you think Haaland would be quite highly captained on that day as well?
It'd be interesting. Be really interesting to see that. I don't think he'll ever be a differential, but I can see him being maybe 50% or below. Some people are bringing back. I've got excess. I've got so many transfers, so it could well be that I get rid of him for Ollie Watkins and then bring him back for someone else. I could well do that. So I quite like the idea of having him on that day. I think he'll be 50% or below, which is could be a nice swing for you, really. That's assuming, of course, he does well against Liverpool, which is a bit of an ask. Like you were saying, he's not done well in history so far, so we'll see.
Yeah, yeah, we'll see, won't we? He's got the potential, like you say, he's got the potential to go off. I'd be worried with that with any game with no Haaland.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't actually captain Haaland on fan team at the weekend, and that was like pretty 10p 5p. It's unfortunate that Saka didn't really take advantage of that. Salah was obviously the go, wasn't he? But it's always a risk going against Haaland.
And then a final question from Mitch. He says, if you're happy with your 11 players, would you skip bringing in a Newcastle player? For me, it depends who your 11 players are, because I think quite a lot of us have Rodri. So I'm happy with Rodri, but you can just get fixture gains by switching him for someone like Trippier. So I think I'm going to do that. I know, like I say, I'm happy with Rodri, but given the fixture gains, I think it's probably worth doing. But if like you didn't have Rodri and had 11 players with a good fixture volume over the next few weeks, I think even you said it yourself, it could well be a skip. I think Forest are really good at home as well, aren't they? So I'd probably back them to score in that one.
Yeah, well, so would that then push you more towards Brennan Johnson potentially? But the time to bring Brennan Johnson in would have been Sunday.
Yeah, it would have been
But
in the past, definitely.
he had 2 games as well, 2 goals as well, didn't he? For owners, I think did Liam Dorian jump on him?
I
I
think
think he
some
did.
people, yeah, quite a number of people
Luke,
actually had him in
Luke
Sky, which
Notley
is
did. Luke, shout out to Luke because Luke actually sent me a message and said, I think Brennan Johnson before. I think Brennan Johnson's a really good shout. I'm bringing him into my B team, and Luke, I don't think was brave enough to bring him into the A, and probably should have now with that brace. But yeah, it was a really good call from Luke that and Liam as well.
cool. I don't have any more questions or anything to talk about. I think that covers us nicely for the game week. And thank you everyone for taking part in the chat and stuff. We hopefully covered all your messages and answered your questions there. Any more from yourself, Sam?
No,
Cool. Well, we'll leave it there. And yeah, thanks for watching if you're watching this back, and thanks for joining us live if you've joined us live. And yeah, we'll hopefully catch you next week for another be game week 33 in the Sky.
well,
Yeah. See you in the next one.
flying round. Cheers, folks. Nice. Just checking those Champions League scores. 0-0.